Let's talk about CBS News. As you guys know, CBS News was purchased by David Ellison, Larry Ellison's son. And part of the reason why it was purchased is so that Bari Weiss could command CBS News to be more pro-Trump than it already was, and certainly a ton more pro-Israel than it already was. And it was really pro-Israel. One of the tasks that Bari Weiss had directly was to command 60 Minutes. As editor-in-chief, her job is to dictate how 60 Minutes conducts its interviews, conducts its investigations. It was directly a part of the job, right? And I'm going to talk about her statement since then because it came out and it's worthy of covering. But basically, 60 Minutes was supposed to release a story on Trump's deportees, specifically the ones that got deported to CCOT, the El Salvador slave labor prison. Bari Weiss pulled it. It's been leaked, and we'll be watching it because they still released it in Canada. But before we do that, let's look at the story.
Employees are threatening to quit amid fears of corporate censorship. That's after the network abruptly pulled a 60 Minutes investigation hours before it was set to air last night. The segment would have brought viewers the stories of Venezuelan deportees sent to El Salvador's notorious prison. CBS says that it was still going to air it, but that it needs more reporting. Let's go live now to CNN chief media analyst Brian Stelter. This is really a severe blow, it seems, to the network's credibility here. What are you hearing from journalists there, Brian?
I think that's accurate. This is a blow to credibility.
It's pretty funny because everybody hates her. Like, why wouldn't you hate her? If you are a lifelong career reporter, journalist, editor, producer, whatever, okay? And you've sucked a mountain of dicks, okay? Every day is a climb on Dick Mountain, and you're sucking it, okay? And then Bari Weiss, who objectively sucked less dicks, but the right kind of dicks, gets one on you. And now she's commanding the entire franchise. You're like, what do you mean? I've been climbing Dick Suck Mountain every goddamn day. You mean to tell me that you could helicopter your way to the top because you sucked one cock? That's bullshit. And then also, obviously, there's people that are doing good work as well. Say metaphorical dicks just to be safe. Yeah, of course, I'm talking about not real dicks. I'm saying that you just have to consistently put in work and brown nose and, you know, say certain things, not say certain things in this like tumultuous job environment. You know, it's chaotic. And then Bari Weiss is just sucking up to billionaires. And then boom, she becomes your boss, even though her career is riddled with L's and hypocrisy and inconsistencies and not a lot of good content in the process either. That's gotta be shit. She kept failing upwards. Why? Because she sucked up to billionaires. And that's all this is. She has the charisma of a moribund snail. Exactly. Reminder that Bari Weiss has never been a journalist ever. She has spent her short career on the opinion side only. And before that, she was a college kid trying to get Palestinian teachers fired. So of course she sees a 60-minute episode she doesn't like and just spikes it. The amount of resentment that real journalists and even journalists who are careerists have for Bari Weiss is endless, okay? In an industry where there's a lot of vultures, sharks, and also really solid reporters, Bari Weiss is universally despised, right? For good reason, because she has no redeemable quality. Like she has no stage presence. She's not charismatic at all. She doesn't actually have an eye for talent, contrary to what Ezra Klein claimed, which again, Ezra Klein, what the are you doing, man? Jesus Christ. Like, he finds himself always on the wrong side of every argument, like professionally. It's crazy to me. But yeah, everybody hates her, and you know, mostly for good reason. And these guys love yapping, okay? If you know anything about media figures, they love talking to one another, okay? They're gossips. Maybe that's the reason why they found themselves in this field. Given Bari Weiss's tendency to things up because she's just awful at her job, I mean, it's a really horrible media environment for her. She is just going to get constantly daggered over and over and over again from respected reporters all the way down to the biggest careerists who are somewhat jealous that they didn't suck the right dicks, right? They sucked the wrong ones. Lower level dicks on Dick Suck Mountain.
Or not the piece actually airs in the future, and editor-in-chief Bari Weiss is saying to the staff this morning this segment will air when it's ready. But here's what's odd about the situation. We can walk through the timeline, and I think it'll show how this doesn't really add up. All right, correspondent Sharon Alfonsi had been working on this segment for weeks. She interviewed some of these deportees who described torturous conditions at CCOT, that prison in El Salvador.
I do want to mention something else here, though, but like, it is objectively funny that this this is coming off the heels of, one, Bari Weiss going on a conference and going viral for saying, my job is to deplatform Tucker Carlson, Hassan Piker, Nick Fuentes, Andrew Tate for being anti-Semitic, and instead put up voices that Americans are craving to hear from, like Alan Dershowitz and Dana Loesch.
And so the reason isn't because I particularly, I came into the world thinking I'm going to be a great television executive. It's because all of us see the moment that we're in. And all of us see that the choices that it feels like we have sometimes, which is Hassan Piker and Tucker Carlson, or Nick Fuentes and, Andrew Tate, the kind of people that are rising in the podcast charts, those don't actually represent our values. And I don't think that they represent the values and the worldview of the vast majority of Americans.
Everybody laughed at that. They were like, you're an idiot, okay? And then she was like, oh, I have a idea. I have a banger idea. We're going to do a town hall with Erica Kirk, the only other person that is as uncharismatic as Bari Weiss on camera. And then that flopped. And then this, it's just L after L after L for Bari, which of course, her job isn't to actually make people watch her content. Don't be ridiculous. That's just what they put down in the paper. That's what they put down as her primary job, but it's not. Her job is to make CBS News by force more pro-Israel and more pro-Trump, more pliant. I think the very fact that she is incompetent and bad at her job makes it funnier. Yeah, you've never seen this before? Just because it never fails to amuse, here's Bari Weiss's bust that she had installed in tribute to herself by the front doors of her fake university. Once again, you might be asking yourself, how is she so industrious? How is she so good? She has a fucking fake unaccredited university. How is that possible? Called University of Austin. It's because she sucked the right dicks. That's it. Obviously, this is analogy. I'm not being serious about, sucking on actual, hard penises or whatever. But she sucked up to the right billionaires. That's it. That's it. That's literally all this is. In some ways, I think it's almost like the billionaires basically saying hey, if you suck our dicks, we'll elevate you too. You understand? As Stead says, the Free Press is one of the least curious media outlets on earth. Every article is a collection of anecdotes that adds up to their priors. Almost no new info or reporting that would challenge their audience. If you fell for Weiss's edgy journo act, it's likely because you wanted to. It's not because of the work. Remembering when Ellison bought Free Press and to maintain the fiction that it was a savvy business decision rather than him turning CBS News into an ideological play toy, everyone had to refer to Bari Weiss as a reporter and the Free Press as a news outlet, despite them clearly never being either. Brian Stelter himself did this. David Ellison has been tight-lipped about his vision for CBS News, so his interest in the Free Press is a significant signal about his plan to invest in reporting and analysis, to which Adam Johnson replied with, Brian, please tell us what reporting the Free Press has done. Sending whiny lunatics to troll Gaza protesters, harassing trans youth and their families? What actual news story have they ever broken? Ever? Genuinely. Question I'd love to hear you answer.
That the Trump administration has been sending migrants to. So these interviews were in the can, they were edited, this segment was ready to go according to producers, editors, fact checkers, and even the lawyers who reviewed the segment. As of Friday, this was ready to go. And that's significant because on Thursday night, editor-in-chief Bari Weiss was able to screen it for the first time. I'm told she had some concerns, but there was a sort of an assessment that the piece was going to move forward. And on Friday afternoon, this broadcast was publicized. It was promoted ahead of time. Alfonsi's segment was announced to the public.
That's what's also funny about it. They literally promoted it. Bari Weiss, once again, should have just released this, right? Bari Weiss should have just released this. It would not have been a story. I mean, it would have been bad for the administration, but now that she actually tried to stop this unsuccessfully, it's turned into a story in and of itself. It got more attention and it got leaked and they had already cut a trailer for it. Why would you do that? You're so stupid. But of course you're stupid because you were not promoted to the position of prominence that you got because of your efficiency or because of your output or because of the work you put in. You got there because you didn't climb Dick Mountain the right way as everybody else did, okay? You didn't put time. You got a Sherpa. You got a helicopter ride to the top. That's it. You didn't kiss the right asses. Or sorry, the best of asses and not all of the asses on your way up.
But if she felt so strongly, why did she only make this decision over the weekend after the segment was announced, after it was ready to go, according to staffers, after it was already publicized? There's something strange about the process here. And then there's the political overtones that are inescapable. And that is why so many CBS staffers are now alarmed in this moment.
Yeah. And just to be precise, 60.
All right, let's look at the dumbass internal memo that this incompetent monster wrote. Hi, y'all. I'm writing with specific guidance on what I'd like for us to advance the CCOS story. I know you'd all like to see this run as soon as possible. I feel the same way. But if we run the piece as is, we'd be doing our viewers a disservice. Last month, many outlets, most notably the New York Times, exposed the horrific conditions at CCOT. Our story presents more of these powerful testimonies, and putting those accounts in the public record is valuable in and of itself. But if we're going to run another story about a topic that has now been much covered, we need to advance it. Among the ways we do so, does anyone in the administration or anyone prominent who defended the use of the Alien Enemies Act now regret it in light of what these Venezuelans endured at CCOT? That's a question I'd like to see asked and answered. At present, we do not present the administration's argument for why it sent 252 Venezuelans to CCOT. What the 252 Venezuelans? What we have is Caroline Leavis soundbite claiming they're evildoers in America, rapists, murderers. But isn't there much more to ask in light of the torture that we are revealing? Tom Homan and Stephen Miller don't tend to be shy. I realize we've emailed the DHS spokesperson, but we need to push much harder to get these principles on the record. The data we present paints an incongruent picture. Of the 252 Venezuelans sent to CCOT, we say nearly half have no criminal histories. In other words, more than half do have criminal histories. We should spend a beat explaining this. She's like, why can't we justify the administration sending 252 Venezuelans to the slave labor prison where they're torturing people in a piece that is supposed to feature the innocent victims of this torture prison deportation scheme that the administration has designed? I like that she's trying to spin it in the internal memo as though she's just trying to arrive at a deeper truth. But it's pretty obvious what she's doing. She's like, why won't we defend it more? Many had speeding tickets. We should highlight these awful crimes. We then say only 8 out of the 252 have been sentenced in America for violent offenses. But what about charged? Oh, okay. What about it? I don't know how the criminal justice system works. Why don't we just immediately assume that the administration, who we are showcasing is engaging in an act of tremendous wrongdoing? Why don't we act like that administration actually has righteous cause to do this tremendous wrongdoing that they're doing currently? Listen, no disrespect. As you guys know, I'm much closer, or if not directly an ML. But this does kind of sometimes remind me of like, well, every single person that Stalin actually was sending to the camps was actually an evildoer and bad. If you really investigate it further, you will find out that they were all engaging in, counter-revolutionary, reactionary behavior. Like that's what that's a little bit what this is. Like, this is like, well, why don't we just like dive deeper into the data to find out what the administration itself is claiming is the wrongdoing that these guys did when we sent them to the slave labor camp. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. When I look at CBS News' 60 Minutes doing a piece specifically on the slave labor camp, I think to myself, how can we make the slave labor camp narrative seem better? Anyway, but what about charged? My point is that we should include as much as we can possibly know and understand about these individuals. Secretary Noem's trip to CCOT. We report that she took pictures and video there with MS-13 gang members, not TDA members, with no comment from her or her staff about what her goal on that trip was or what she saw there, or if she had or has concerns about the treatment of detainees like the ones in RPs. I also think the ensuing analysis from the Berkeley students is strange. The pictures are alarming. We should include them. But what does the analysis add? We need to do a better job of explaining the legal rationale by which the administration detained and deported these 252 Venezuelans to CCOT. Yeah, I don't think they're going to come out and be like, it's because we're racist and we wanted to use Venezuelans as a simple talking point. Okay? It's because we want to build a white nationalist dystopia. And in an effort to start the process of this, we wanted to start shipping entire swaths of the population to this slave labor colony for no real reason whatsoever. As a matter of fact, a lot of these people, as you saw, don't really have any real criminal profile whatsoever. We just kind of decided that they are criminals. Now, there is one guy who would say that, and his name is Stephen Miller. But of course, he's not going to say that. He's just going to say these guys are criminals and they're ruining the country and they're raping and pillaging. He's going to lie. That's the whole point. That isn't the administration's argument. The admin has argued in court that detainees are due judicial review, and we should explain this, with a voice arguing that Trump is exceeding his authority under the relevant statute, and another arguing that he's operating within the bounds of his authority. There's a genuine debate here. If we cut down Kristi Noem's analysis, we'd have the time. My general view here is that we do our viewers the best service by presenting them with the full context. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's like, I'm Bari Weiss. I have been put in charge of Adolf Hitler's propaganda apparatus. And, I'm previously I'm being put in charge. Previously, it was actually a liberal institution, right? So I'm still attacking the argument from a liberal association, a liberal understanding, the extreme centrism perspective. Yes, the Nuremberg, many of our liberal counterparts are talking about the Nuremberg race laws as genuinely problematic. But have we failed to consider what Hitler thinks about it? Why is there no argument here that presents the organized jury as a parasitic force that is somehow both incredibly weak and very powerful? Can we please factor in what the Nazis have to say? Maybe they had good reasons to build the Nuremberg race laws. How many of the Jews that were sent to the initial work camps actually a genuine and ever-present threat to German society? Is there an argument here that the Volk really deserve the social safety nets that Jews do not? Find out more on 60 Minutes. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I believe we need to do more reporting here. I'm eager and available to help. I tracked down cell numbers for Homan and Miller and sent those along. Please let me know how I can support you. While leading Colombians for academic freedom, Bari Weiss sought to get pro-Palestine Columbia professors fired, by the way. While leading the Free Press, Weiss is spiking stories to cover for a president who sought to get pro-Palestine Columbia students deported. She also invented the elite campus identity politics primordial identities. Words are violence, safe spacing, microaggression, hyper-aggressive litigation, and is built a career out of opposing anyone else trying to practice these dark arts. That's Bari Weiss, baby. Oh, one of the stupid parts about her argument here was, of course, as Aaron Reichlin-Melnick presents, the Supreme Court already held 9-0 that the process used to send people to CCOT violated due process. There's not any dissent here. What are you saying? When she's like, why don't we hear from both sides of the argument? Like, here's the thing, okay? I know for a fact Bari Weiss is not like this as a person. There are some people out there who do genuinely go, no, we should hear from all sides of all arguments, no matter how fucking silly, how stupid, or how ridiculous they may be. Bari Weiss is not one of these people. If the story was about, like, I don't know, the growth of neo-Nazi movements in the country, she wouldn't be going, hey, why don't we have famed historian, often misunderstood, David Irving to deliver us his perspective on why the Nazis were actually misunderstood? Like, she wouldn't do that. She just would not do that. And I don't even know if that's an appropriate way to cover a story like that anyway, okay? Just like Bari Weiss is not going to do a fucking town hall with David Duke, and she probably shouldn't do a town hall with David Duke anyway. I'm not even saying that that's a good thing. And of course, obviously, everybody hates her at CBS because, like I said, instead of going up the dick ladder, okay, in the appropriate way, she skyrocketed to the top. Why kiss the asses of every single middle manager when you can kiss the top manager's ass, billionaires? At a somber 60-minute staff meeting today, Scott Pelley and others expressed frustration at Bari Weiss's handling of last night's cancel segment and management style. Is not a part-time job, Pelley said, referring to Weiss's missing screenings of the segment per sources. Tanya Simmons, 60 executive producer, said she stands 100% behind Sharon Alfonsi in the story. Simon also pledged to uphold the show's journalistic standards, even if the show comes under more oversight from CBS News management than in the past. Also, Sharon Alfonsi gave a pointed rejoinder to Weiss's call for a newsroom where journalists can contentiously, if respectfully, disagree. Disagreement requires discussion, Alfonsi said, per sources saying Weiss did not contact her directly about the segment. I think she's stupid, okay? I think she's stupid, and I think she foolishly decided to, try to spike this segment, clearly, without even realizing that the segment had already been promoted and was already slated for distribution in Canada, which is why we actually have access to the segment. And while this would have been coverage that has already taken place 1 million times over, as it's been promoted everywhere else, she ended up accidentally Streisand affecting the out of the story. And here it is. This is from the Canadian broadcast. I believe there's only 18 minutes dedicated to CCOT.
During that interview,
they just looked at me and told me I was a danger to society.
You have no criminal record.
I never even got a traffic ticket.
Nevertheless,
Bari Weiss is like, why are we just interviewing him? Why can't we interview Adolf Hitler, who will then tell us that this guy deserved it? This is not good enough. Why are we not hearing from the administration that sent him to the torture, rape, slave prison? It's so crazy, man.
CCOT, the Terrorism Confinement Center, was built in 2022. as a key part of Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele's sweeping anti-gang crackdown. The massive prison, designed to hold 40,000 inmates, and its harsh reputation are a point of pride for Bukele.
You know what's crazy? I knew I was going to have issues with the 60 Minutes piece, as I often do, but not in the Bari Weiss perspective, but because of what gets left unsaid, even in a piece such as this one. I hope they will at least factor in some human rights concerns here about the prison structure and the judiciary in El Salvador without just like moving on.
How do you know they weren't gang members?
We cross-reference federal databases in all 50 states in the United States, and also obtain criminal records in Venezuela and in the countries where these people lived. And the information we obtained in the United States is based on data provided by ICE.
So ICE's own records said...
ICE's own records say that only 3% of them had been sentenced for a violent or potentially violent crime.
Well, now, I mean, we'd have to hear from Stephen Miller, I think, about how everyone, including that lawyer who, speaking suspiciously with an accent, should probably get sent to the rape torture camp.
60 Minutes reviewed the available ICE data. It confirms the findings of Human Rights Watch. It shows 70 men had pending criminal charges in the U.S., which could include immigration violations. We don't know because the Department of Homeland Security...
Yeah, that's the other thing, by the way. Here is one of the most indecent things that this administration has done so far. If you guys recall, up until Trump 2, 98% of court meetings were attended by undocumented migrants that were in the process of filing their asylum claim and applying and totally playing ball with the criminal justice or the immigrant justice system, right? So what the Trump administration started doing is they started picking off people in all of these court proceedings, as we saw inside of courtrooms, as they were coming in or out of their hearings with immigration judges. And the reason why they did that was, one, because it's super easy, because you know those guys are playing ball with immigration, so you know where they're at any given moment, right? But the other reason why they did that is because now immigrants will think twice before they actually go to their court proceeding, because they're terrified of whether or not they will be falsely deported from the country, despite the fact that they are playing ball with the administration, right? They're doing their due diligence. Their only crime is, I guess, being foolish enough to assume that this administration will actually allow them to stay in the country as long as they follow the letter of the law. So when they don't actually go to the court hearings now because they're terrified, and court appearance numbers have actually dropped quite a bit. NPR was reporting on it this morning. Now they automatically get a deportation order. So it's a double whammy. And because these people were already playing ball with the government knows exactly where they are. They're going to their court hearings. The government knows exactly where they are. They have their IRS paperwork. They have their domicile. They know where they live. They know where their family members live. They're not very hard to track down. And now you create this environment where you have a righteous cause to deport these people because they missed their court hearing. And then the numbers that they're showing here will reflect that. Then they can turn around and say, guess what? These guys had deportation orders. That means that they're criminals. That means they had to be deported. So they're creating criminals only to justify the deportation numbers.